Thank you for coming to dorcasgazelle.com. We're always glad to have you. My name is Dorcas Chandler, and today I'm going to be talking on a subject, changes from within, and my topic is going to be chasing the wind, winds of regret. A lot of times in life when we're dealing with weight or relationships or things that we've lost, we tend to have regrets in our life. Regrets are, what does that mean? It means we begin to feel sad. The word, it means repentant. We're disappointed over something. And especially if something is final. It could be a loss. And you can't do anything about the loss. And you know, what happens is when something is final and we can't do anything about something that we're regretting, the mind continues to remind us of what we don't have and what we're missing. And if we store up and keep allowing our mind to tell us all these negative things about that we're disappointed about, or about that we're regretting, and it's final, it's over, there's nothing you can do about it. Long periods of regret can cause us to go into deep depression and even have physical sicknesses. So I want to tell my story today. And I know that a lot of times I talk about my parents, because it was at that point in my life where I thought that the death of my parents was a life sentence. I felt like that everything was over. I would never ever be able to do anything that would amount to nothing, because I was in such a state of mind of depression. And I wouldn't even use the word depression, because I would just be thinking, okay, you're going to get over this. But I was so deep in the depression of losing my parents and the things that I went through that led me to the place of depression, that I lived in denial. So when I lived in denial, physical sickness continued to cause my body to get worse and worse and worse. So this is my story. My dad was dying of cancer, and I was there taking care of him. I had closed down my school. I went home to take care of my parents. And that was all good, so I thought. But what happened was, when you love somebody and you're watching them die. And my dad was a big man, and all of a sudden, he's this small man. And he's laying in this bed, and every 4 hours I've been instructed to give him 2 Vicodin and morphine under the tongue. So every 4 hours I was jumping up, running to my dad's room, giving him this medicine, because his doctor said that the cancer that he had was very painful, and I had to make sure that I didn't miss it. So I would go into his room, and at first he was the normal size. But then he just kept dwindling down, dwindling down. So I'd pick him up in my arms and I'd say, hey, champ, it's time to take your medicine. And I was giving him, like I said, the Vicodin and the morphine under the tongue. And then I said, all of a sudden, I said, hey, wait a minute. Am I killing my dad? Because I just kept seeing this progression where he was getting worse and worse. So the nurse came, and she came in my room, and I said, you know, I looked these pills up on the internet, and they're narcotics. You know, they're a narcotic. I said, am I killing my dad? And she just looked at me and she said, Dorcas, your dad is dying. And she said it so, I don't know. It just really bothered me the way that she said it. She might not have meant it in that way, but I took it really bad and personal. And so every time I would give my dad medicine, it was bothering me. And so the doctor had told me, he had called me in and told me when he told me my dad was dying of cancer. I was in there by myself, and he told me, he said, Dorcas, he said, now when your dad starts calling for more medicine, you're going to need to call this number. The ambulance is going to come and get him, and that means that his body is shutting down, and it won't be long before he dies. So I gave my dad the medicine as prescribed. And then one night he was saying, Dorcas, Dorcas. And I heard him calling me because our rooms were on the other side of the house. So I'd sleep with my door open and sleep at the bottom of my bed. I got up and went. And he was asking me, is it time? I, at that point, realized that, okay, I need to call this number. So when I went back in my room and I called the number, and the nurse told me she wanted to know I had to go do different things, and so they said they would send an ambulance that morning. They sent an ambulance and they took my dad, and eventually my dad died. And I regretted it. I regretted not that he died, but for the longest I carried this guilt inside of me that maybe I killed him with all this stupid medication. And I mean, that's just what I was saying. And I felt hopeless. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know who to tell, and I didn't know, if anybody was going to believe what I was saying. But at that point, I didn't want anything to do with any more medication. You can't give me no medicine. And so I had a back injury, and I needed medicine myself, but I wouldn't take it because I was carrying this guilt. I was feeling sad. It was something that happened, and it was final. There was nothing I could do about it. And then 3 days later, after we buried my dad, my grandmother died. So now, here we go with another death. Something that's final. I go down to the rest home. My grandmother's laying up there and she's dead. Then we're having to make arrangements to send her back to North Carolina because that's what my dad promised her. We did that. Then now it's me and my mom. So I'm taking care of my mom. And as I'm taking care of my mom's going through really grief. They've been married for over 54 years. And I'm not really knowing how to handle grief. Come on, Mom, you're going to be okay, And so I was trying to help her the best way I knew how. But then almost a year later, she died. And I felt guilty because I felt like I wasn't doing enough. So, what is this story about? You see, sometimes when things in our life are final, yours might not be death, but it might just be something that it could be a final divorce. It could be you've lost your job. It could be your health is in a bad situation and there's nothing you can do about it. And sometimes I look out and I see from my office, I can see the branches of trees and the wind is just blowing. And sometimes in our mind, if we're not careful, we're like the tree. I mean, we're chasing the wind. We're all in a frenzy, and we're doing stuff to our bodies and to our minds because of the things that we're telling ourselves. A lot of times we are talking things that is causing us to be unhealthy. So what happened to me, I moved here to Arizona, and then after I moved here to Arizona, I still had the guilt. But you wouldn't know that I had the guilt because the guilt was on the inside of me. I was operating just like everybody else, going around, but I had this guilt and wondering, could I have done more? And when we get like that, we're doing nothing but chase the wind. You can't take the wind and hold it in your hand. You can't take the wind and embrace it and it just becomes a part of you. So what happens a lot of time is we go through all these changes and things start happening inside of us that will cause us to change in our emotions. Not only in our emotions, but what happened with me was my emotions were so damaged by the taking care of my parents that I started with this eating disorder. And I've only spoke a couple of times about this, about how that I started eating mayonnaise sandwiches. Nothing but mayonnaise sandwiches. I wouldn't eat no bread. I mean, I had the bread, but there was no meat inside. It was nothing but slapped on mayonnaise and bread. I became so depressed, didn't know what to do. I had this eating disorder. So what's happening is I'm eating mayonnaise and bread, and I'm just gaining weight, gaining weight, gaining weight, gaining weight. My weight came up to 400 pounds. I went to Weight Watchers. I was trying to do all these things to suppress the problem that needed to be changed within me. Why am I saying this again? Because a lot of times we're trying to fix the problem. It might be drinking. It might be drugs. It might be medication. It might be changing locations. But we have to change what's bothering us on the inside of us. We cannot, our bodies are not built to contain a lot of stress. We can't keep running away from who we are. If it might have been being molested as a child or whatever the problem is, problems on your job, and we just keep acting like, problems in your family, and we just keep acting like, problems just wherever, and we keep acting like they're not happening. It's unhealthy. We have to know that things, especially that are final in our life, that we can do nothing else about. What do we need to do? It's easy to say, let it go. You know, people, just let it go. Just don't worry about that. It's okay. These are words that we tell ourselves. But is it really okay? My husband is sick now. Don't worry about that. You guys are going to be okay. But what goes along with taking care of somebody that's sick? A caregiver. I have a lot of respect for people that take care of people. Because first of all, you're taking care of people. I'm dealing with myself now that used to being independent and doing for myself. And then all of a sudden now I got to depend on you. And I don't want to depend on you. But God has a way to help us understand what's really going on inside of us. And the thing that he told me was, you remember when you were sitting outside the oncology office when you took your dad and you said, "Hey, Dad," when he came back to the car. I said, I'm sitting here and I'm watching all these people and I'm like, oh, that lady, she don't have no hair. She must have cancer. My mouth is not moving. Oh, look at that man. He's got to get out of a cab. Poor man. And I'm telling my dad, my mouth is not moving. Oh, look at them. Look like, where are their kids? I'm just talking in my mind. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, do you realize that we're talking when we're not talking? And he said, yeah, Dorcas. And that came up to me again. If we can't change the situation, which if it's final, it can be grief. It could be situations, like I said, relationship. And that's a whole gamut of a whole lot of things. If we can't change the situation by doing something, then we need to change our self-talk. What are we feeding our spirit? What is my mind telling me? Because if your mind is talking negative talk to you and negative thoughts, even about situations, maybe your dad has died and you're mad because maybe you thought the doctors didn't do enough, or you're mad because of whatever you're mad about. Can we change the situation? If the answer is no, not only do we need to release it, because see, we can't release something just by saying, okay, I'm not going to deal with that. That is not release. The only way we can release somebody and even forgive somebody, we have to stop, S-T-O-P, our self-talk. We have to say, wait a minute, I'm not dealing with that, because there's nothing I can do about it. So what I have to do, I have to put something in its place. You know, my parents died, both of them, and my grandmother, but I thank God that I had them as long as I did. That's what I start doing. I thank God that I was able to take care of my parents in their weakest hour. Instead of all the negative stuff. The nurse told me about the medicine, and why would she talk to me like that? When we're doing that, we're chasing the wind. You'll never catch it, and you'll never find the answer. If it's final, let it go. We have to let things that are final go. If it's not final, then we have to ask God, God, how can I change my self-talk? What am I telling myself that's causing me to have all these negative emotions, and I'm just running around like I'm somebody chasing the wind? You're chasing the wind, you'll never catch it. Because you can run north and it might be south. You can run east and it might be west. So changes from within are so vitally important, because nobody knows what's really going on inside of you but you. So self-talk is so important. And I do it now because I still have problems with self-talk. I mean, you could do something to me. If you hurt me, it's going to take me a longer time to get over what I need to get over. I mean, it takes me a while. If you make me mad, that's no big deal. But if you hurt me, if I feel violated, it takes a long time for me to get over it. But now what God is showing me, you got to change your self-talk. Find something good. Even when it don't feel good, we can find something good. We don't have to be running around chasing the wind. We don't have to spend the rest of our life feeling like we're in a life sentence because life has taken its course. None of us are going to live forever. We say that, but I don't think we believe it. But none of us are going to live forever. So my thing is now is I want to love in the moment. And I thank God that He allowed me to love my parents. Not only did He allow me to love them, but they love me. And so what I can do with that and what I'm doing with that, sometimes I look at even me, Velma, and Joan, and look at the way that we were brought up and the integrity level that we have. the love for God that we have, um, diligence. I mean, you got to work it out. Keep working. I mean, people that work. I mean, we're not looking for a handout. We got that all from our parents. Loving people. Color don't matter. We got that from our parents. So these are the things, our giftings, our talents. We got that from our parents. We got that from our parents. So no matter what you're going through, you might be going through something on your job. Find something good, and when that self-talk, when that negative self-talk comes, replace it with something good. And I'm telling you, it takes practice. But the more we do it, the more we'll change. You know, I'm disabled, and I'm on a walker, and I used to feel like, oh my goodness, it was a life sentence. I'm never going to get off because I got this spinal cord thing going on in my back, you know. But just this morning, I got up and I was like, whoa, God. I was able to sweep my kitchen. You know, put the dishes in the dishwasher. Last night, I had a tremendous workout. And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to get off. When you start changing from within, your perspectives will change. I mean, they really will change. I feel great. I used to be sitting here in my house. Why people don't come and see me? You know, why this and why that? And I'm all alone, and I'm here in Arizona, and I need to go back to California, and this, that, and the other. You know what? That don't even matter no more. I am having me some fun here in my house. And I've just learned how to do different things. And I'm enjoying Dorcas. I went to put on my exercise clothes. I usually exercise in something else. And I had bought this exercise outfit because I was supposed to be going to the gym last year. It didn't work out. And the other day, a couple days ago, it was like, you know, you need to try it on and see because it was a 4X, and I said, okay, and I went and I started putting it on, and man, it's just way too big, and I'm telling you, I felt great, because I remember the time where I hated buying clothes because nothing never fit. So when we find something good to talk about, I'm telling you, love will change your heart. And that's when we start understanding, no, I'm not going to chase the wind. I decided to change from within. And I thank God for the change. And you know what? I just had another birthday, and somebody called me and they said, Dorcas, you know the thing that inspires me about you? And I said, no. You're teaching me you're never too old to change. I'm not going to tell you my age, but I tell you what, I feel good. And if I just have this day, just one more day, I feel good. Don't chase the wind. Look in. Find out what's really bothering you. Yours might not be grief, like I said before. But mine was I was so mixed up in my mind and didn't want to admit it. That's the bad thing. And then when I finally did admit it to my doctor, that's when I started working. And it's been 2 years. And to me, it should be over. But guess what? It's not. And like I said, I think I said it on one of the tapes. Somebody said, how long are you going to do this? And I told them until they close the coffin. I love you. I praise God for you. And I hope this has given you something to not only release what you're going through, but really the only way we can release things is we have to change our self-talk. Dorcas Chandler, Dorcas Gazelle. selftalk.com. Be blessed.